Now, page 4, using a governmental shotgun to kill a rather picky bug. Why would government shut down life in Nebraska? Cornhusker State is nothing like Washington State in oh so many ways, but let's look at the Wuhan coronavirus in Nebraska. How many cases there? Answer, a handful, and I mean a handful of diagnosed Wuhan coronavirus cases. Compare that to Washington State, which is the point of origin for this virus in this country. Washington has a few hundred cases. Most of them are clustered around Seattle. Why is government shutting down all of Washington State? Look at California. There are clusters of a few hundred cases of Wuhan corona in the Bay Area, and then in Los Angeles, a couple of clusters there, and a cluster of a couple of hundred in San Diego. So why is government shutting down the entire state? In New York, the Empire State, Westchester, Nassau, Suffolk have clusters of a couple thousand each, more or less. Big Apple with about 12,000 cases. In other words, the eastern portion of New York is being hit. So why close down the entire state? We can go on and on and on like this, state by state, city by city. But even within the high-risk zones, why is everyone targeted for house arrest? The fatal component of this bug is rather picky. So why not protect the people who are at high risk and let everyone else take precautions? And how about use a little common sense in our approach to corona? Yeah, just about anyone outside of school children, apparently, can come down with the Wuhan virus. But no, most people are not dying. The vast majority of people who are suffering from cases of the Wuhan coronavirus recover. So why not shield the vulnerable and allow the rest of us to live life, work, shop, eat at a restaurant, using whatever guidelines these businesses choose to impose? And if we don't like any of these guidelines or believe that a certain business is not doing its job, keeping the vulnerable safe, then let the free market decide whether they remain open or not, instead of allowing some politician to decide what is so-called essential to our society and what is not. Let we, the people, decide what is essential. Instead, what's happening is all 330 million diverse Americans of different genders and different ethnicities and different grades of health and different ages, of course, are being treated like one giant societal chunk of homogeny. It makes no sense. Insulate the weak, the sick, and the elderly from this virus. Yes, 100%. But stop using a governmental shotgun to kill a rather picky bug. And of course, one of the main socialist hunters pulling the trigger of this government shotgun approach to controlling our society is, of course, the Marxist socialist from Vermont himself, Bernie Sanders.
I suppose nobody is shocked that in this era of unfettered capitalism, that in the midst...
Stop the tape. Unfettered capitalism. Does he ring and reek any more of Marxist socialism? Unfettered capitalism is what we should desire in this country. Unfettered capitalism is what made this country great in the Industrial Revolution. Carnegie and the other men that built this country in the late 1800s, I'm blanking, J.P. Morgan, the rest of them, Rockefeller, there's a name. They had unfettered access to capitalism. A lot has changed since then, since 130, 140 years ago. And yeah, you know, we have some laws and rules in place that are probably better for our society overall. So a Rockefeller, for example, can't run roughshod over employees, or a Carnegie can't, as he did in Pittsburgh so many years ago. So sure, there's some laws in place to throttle some of this, quote, unfettered capitalism. But overall, we want freedom in this society. And here we have a leading candidate for President of the United States on the Democrat side saying that capitalism shouldn't be unfettered, that we shouldn't have the freedom to move up and down the societal ladder. And this is why people like Bernie Sanders, of course, use this term income inequality, because they want homogeny. This is what they're after. They want economic homogeny in this country, and there's only one way to impose economic homogeny on a country. They did it in Cuba. They're doing it probably in North Korea. They did it in the old Soviet Union. And that is a top-down government presence in all aspects of life, a totalitarian government. And that is what Bernie Sanders wants. And so Bernie Sanders is on the front lines of this, voting for the expansion of government, right along there with Chuck Schumer, of course, and Nancy Pelosi. He's egging them on. He's cheering them on. A lot of this stuff they're trying to infuse in the so-called corona response packages out of Congress is straight from Bernie Sanders' playbook, which is straight from the Communist Manifesto and Saul Alinsky's methods to get there with the rules for radicals. This is straight Marxist socialist junk, and it's being now nationalized by the United States Congress. So Bernie Sanders is a very, very happy Marxist socialist right now. He's applauding what Congress is doing, spending more than $1 trillion, upwards of $2 trillion on the so-called corona response. This is exactly what he wants because he knows that government is seizing more power, seizing more liberty, power and liberty that will never, ever be given back to we the people. So this is what we need to worry about. This is what we need to be focused on post-corona. I'm talking 6 months, 12 months down the road. And hopefully after a re-election of the 45th President of the United States, I do believe he's going to survive this. I do believe he's going to weather this storm because this thing is peaking way, way before the election. The stock market's going to come back. The economy is going to come roaring back. There's $4 trillion sitting on the sidelines right now, just waiting to kick back into our society, into our economy. And I believe this is going to go full throttle straight through November. The economy is going to recover very solidly between now and November. We just have to hit that right moment in time where we do indeed have the light at the end of the tunnel, but we have to keep our eyes on the ball post-corona, especially in these blue states like California and New York. And these governors and these legislatures are going to seize more constitutional power, and the American people who care about their constitutional rights have got to push back. So the president is dead on target. The so-called solution to corona should not be worse than the problem. In other words, taking a shotgun approach to swatting down this bug is not rational. It is not only crushing our economy, but it's destroying our lives, our freedom, and our liberty. Shelter and protect the vulnerable for the rest of us. Let's get on with life.
Want to see more videos like this? Click on the link below and subscribe to One America News on YouTube, and call your cable provider and kindly demand that One America News is added to your lineup. Call and subscribe today.